Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just in the nick of time, Greg Baumann.
Good morning, guys. How's everyone doing? Good. All right, so I want to start with a little bit of a poll here, okay? I need you guys to stand up if any of you were recruited to run in college. Obviously not here, but at another school. Any collegiate runners here? One? Okay. Of course. Okay. All right. You guys stay standing. Now, how many of you ran in high school? Like on the cross-country team or track team? Okay. All right, some more. Okay, now how many of you played basketball in high school? All right, you have. Right? You, stay standing. Stay standing. All right, anyone football? How about tennis? Okay, now stand up if you've ever bought a pair of shoes, a pair of running shoes. Okay, all right, that's fine, right? Derek, we'll get you some after class. All right, you guys can sit down, thank you. All right, so I'm here today to talk to you about a man who created a market out of the one person that we had to stand up, Professor Brenberg, at the beginning of class, and made all of you into that market except Derek, unless you live in Brooklyn. I'm here to talk to you today about Phil Knight. Does anyone know who Phil Knight is? Nike. Yes, exactly. He's the founder of Nike.
This is the guy who didn't punch.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay. So Phil Knight has created not only a market from one person to 25 people, but he's also created culture. And he's done that in a couple different ways. He created a running culture. In the 70s and 80s, there weren't a whole lot of people running. That's just kind of a new thing. That how many of you guys went running this morning or have been running this week over back and forth across the bridge? A few people, right? Okay. So that is new, though. This is kind of something of our generation, and Phil Knight is really the person who brought that around. He also revolutionized the shoe industry. In the 70s and 80s, a lot of the reasons why a lot of people weren't running was because their shoes weren't very good, they didn't lend themselves to running, they were heavy, they were uncomfortable, they didn't look cool. You know, if you go to the Nike store, go up to Nike Town on 5th Avenue, you'll see a ton of shoes that are the exact opposite of that. They look like airplanes, right? Have you seen the new Nikes? Has anyone seen, GP knows what I'm talking about, the Nike basketball shoes, the running shoes. They're amazing looking, they're like works of art almost. That wasn't around in the 70s and 80s, that was Phil Knight. So not only is Phil Knight worth $12.7 billion, not only is he number 23 on the Forbes 400, which is kind of interesting because 23 and Phil Knight have had an interesting relationship throughout his career, and part of the reason why he's number 23 on the Forbes 400. But he has also revolutionized how we think about sports and how we think about sports gear. So Phil Knight is an entrepreneurial spirit. He's a traveler. So right out of high school, he went to college, studied at Oregon University, got a business degree there. Yep, Letha? Okay. And then from there, he went on to Stanford Business School for grad school. So he's obviously a pretty smart guy, had a lot going for him. And so he decided after grad school, let's just take a world trip. Let's see what this world's got to offer. And so he went on a world tour. And while he was in Kobe, Japan, which is also interesting because he and Kobe have had an interesting relationship as well. He came across these shoes that he found there. They were Tiger shoes. Tiger was the name of the brand. And he was like, these are amazing. These would do phenomenally in Oregon. I know so many people that would buy these. My track coach would love these. That's the other thing. Phil Knight isn't just some big, rich billionaire. He ran a 4-minute and 10-second mile in his prime at Oregon University. So this guy knows running and he knows business. Okay, so he took something that he knew, and when he found something of excellence in Japan, he brought it back to America. He got a cold call with the owner of Tiger Shoes and said, "What can I do to sell these in America?" And so within the year, Phil Knight was driving around in his old car selling Tiger shoes out of the back. Tiger shoes later became Asics. But prior to that, he worked together with his cross-country coach to start what they had there, to start selling Tiger shoes. They used it as an endorsement, and together they formed. No, not yet. Okay. Together they formed Blue Ribbon Sports. Okay, which is funny. We talk about branding so much, and Nike's probably one of the best branded companies in the country. They were Nike for the first 15 years of their existence. Okay, that's kind of an interesting little fact there. They were Blue Ribbon Sports. So he took Blue Ribbon Sports, and they began selling these Tiger shoes. They began selling what became their competitors' shoes. So they got very successful doing that, and they said, what can we do better here? And so Knight and this coach got together and said, you know what? These things need to have a waffle sole. Now, how many of you guys said you have running shoes here? How many have Nike running shoes? Yeah? Do they have like a kind of a waffly sole at the bottom, or are they just totally flat?
No,
Okay, they're curved and they're waffle. That was Phil Knight pouring plastic onto his wife's waffle iron. And that's where they originally came up with that. Okay, they came up with that idea, and they just changed running shoes. So for those of you guys who don't have Nike running shoes, your shoes are probably designed that way anyways. That was Phil Knight. Excuse me. So another thing that Phil Knight has done through this is they began creating their own shoes. And they brought it beyond just running shoes. It became more than just selling Tigers out of the back of his car. He expanded. And he did it in a very interesting way. Joe here is into marketing. Is anyone else like really fascinated by marketing at all? Yeah, okay, marketing is really fascinating. That's something I think is really interesting. You can say that about it if you want. So marketing has been revolutionized by Nike as well. And that just wasn't Nike's marketing vision, that was Phil Knight's dream. He gets together, he's a little bit of a hometown hero as well. Some of the people that he's worked with to sponsor, Steve Proffontaine, you guys may have heard of, world-class runner that died tragically young. He was another Oregon boy that Phil Knight got together with, and he said, you know, can you endorse my product? But more than that, he worked together with Wheaton and Kennedy. Does anyone know who that is? No? It is one of the best marketing firms in the world. They're founded in Portland, Oregon. And so Nike has teamed up with them since the 80s to revolutionize that industry. And how many of you are World Cup fans here? Watch the World Cup? There were some amazing cinematography with the Nike World Cup commercials. They were really cool. Cristiano Ronaldo and all the other stalkers that no one knows their names. But they were working together, and they changed this. One of them was celebrity endorsement. You don't look back and see celebrity endorsement before Nike. Another guy that I alluded to earlier that has done well because of Nike's celebrity endorsement was Michael Jordan. This was something that Phil Knight found. The first time he met Michael Jordan in college, he was like, I don't know what it is about this guy, but I want him to be part of his brand. I want him to be part of our brand. And so Nike worked to have him sponsor them. And then I saw a quote that Phil Knight has spoken more recently. He said, listen, I just thought he was a charming guy that could jump out of the gym. I didn't know what he would do to our brand and to the sports industry. Michael Jordan, through Phil Knight, was able to do that. And through others too. Phil Knight has these stars for each industry. Even if you don't know women's tennis, you know Serena Williams. And if you don't know soccer, you know Cristiano Ronaldo. These guys are worldwide players because of Phil Knight's work. Another thing he did, I kind of want to close with this, is highlight Phil Knight's hometownness. Okay, he's an Oregon guy. There's not a lot of Oregon pride unless you're Letha, and so he's an Oregon guy, and he did everything that he could to work with Oregon to show what he had. Okay, so he's, like I said earlier, he's a graduate of Oregon University. And does anyone know about the 1996 Oregon Ducks? Anyone? Leave with us. Again, we've thrown the curve here. All right, so the Oregon Ducks in 1996 lost half of their games. And then somehow they got invited to like one of these little tiny bowls, and they got killed by like 30 or 40 points to Colorado State's football team, which isn't a great football team. Okay, so after the game, Phil Knight was talking to the coach. He said, listen, what can I do to help you? What can I do to make Oregon University's football team great? And so they worked together, and in a matter of 15 years, they've created a great football team. And 15 years is not a long time in building a sports program. They went from being killed by Colorado State University's football team to competing with Ohio State and Auburn's football team, which have been around for decades. So last year, the Oregon Ducks were ranked 2nd in the nation. They played Auburn, the Auburn Tigers, in the championship game, and they had been wearing their 13th jerseys of the season that had been given to them by Nike. These are Nike Pro Combat uniforms. These are testing for pro football teams. They're amazing. Did anyone see the game? They looked like they were from Transformers or something. They had like different colored patterns on their helmet, and they had like bright, like glow-in-the-dark numbers. And it probably was hard for Auburn to like try to see the ball with all of the flashing lights and that sort of thing. But Oregon's football team had changed drastically, and with that, Oregon's football culture had changed drastically. Oregon University is famous for their locker rooms. They have better locker rooms than most pro teams that you'll see on television. But more than that, you can go on, if you search Oregon University gear, their gear is amazing, and their fans love it, and they wear it. And people like Letha get to flaunt that they're from the great state of Oregon. So not only has Phil Knight created an industry out of running shoes, which was a very small, non-existent market in the 70s, he created an industry out of that and expanded his own marketplace. And from that marketplace, he expanded and created culture. So that's why I say Phil Knight is creating culture. He's not just some rich billionaire. You got to think back to the entrepreneurial 23-year-old traveling the world out of school that said these shoes will be great someday. So this is what Phil Knight does. He finds things and creates cultures with them. And so this is my presentation on Phil Knight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.